Well, good morning, everyone. How you feeling? Okay? Yeah? Good enough? I have to tell you, I think this is a pretty friendly crowd. Lots of nice people here throughout the entire conference. I will say the Innovator of the Year finalists are pretty competitive. It got a little heated. A few threats here and there. You'll see Boaz next. He is a mean and frightening person. So I'm telling you, he's a threat. So it's been a lot of fun to collaborate and do this work together, even in those veiled threats between the contestants here. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about predicting success, how great it is to predict success. I'll give you a little bit about myself. I work at a company called Sprinklr. We're headquartered out of New York, but I live in Austin. When I joined, there were about 50 people in the company, about 5 in success. There are about 1,500 in the company today and about 130 people within the success organization globally. So as we grew up, there was a lot of process, a lot of infrastructure required to put in place to manage it. 5 people, it's pretty easy to know what's going on. At 130, at what yesterday at SAP, 5,000, right? Much more is required. So let's get into some of the problems that we are trying to solve around predicting success. All right, this quote is often attributed to Abraham Lincoln or Peter Drucker or insert any famous person, but the best way to predict your future is to create it. And who cares who said it? That actually would be great, right? You don't need to predict it if you're going to create it. And this is also true when it comes to predicting what's going to happen with your customers in your business. Because as you grow and as you have other people looking into the business, you know, your seed investors are pretty chill, Series A, a little more, Series B, a little more. Your executive team grows, there's more people sitting there. Guesswork doesn't cut it, right? Understanding what's happening in the business just by saying, well, I think it will, I hope it will, I'm gonna pray that this happens, will not really get you what's required for success. We live in an age where the amount of signals and noise that's coming at us is pretty intense, right? Understanding all the data points about your customers, even if you have one customer, all their usage data, the stakeholders within the business. When you have thousands of customers, this is just compounded, right? The amount of signals to manage gets very intimidating. And not knowing can have some pretty dire consequences when it comes to churn in your account or risk in your account, and especially things like surprise churn, which would probably be the worst thing that you could have. Now, there's some good surprises in life. Yesterday, my buddy Matt from Opal and I were cruising down the mountain, trying not to die. And on the other way, coming up the hill, is this guy Jaron here, and he's just rocking up the mountain. So we're feeling pretty good until we see him going the inverse and crushing a workout. That was a pretty good surprise to chat with him. Also, equally good surprise to see him that night making up for that ride by pounding the dessert, too. So he's got a strategy in place there. Smart man. So that's a good surprise. Bad surprise is unanticipated. Oh, shoot, we forgot this customer's contract has lapsed. Uh-oh, this customer is at risk, and we didn't see that coming. So a framework for comprehension of risk is something that we required, right? Looking at all these data points to understand how can we make sense of this data in a predictable fashion. That's why we developed what we call a Churn Probability Score. The acronym CPS isn't as good, so we'll just say Churn Probability Score. But in any case, this helps us know where we have risk in our accounts, predict when that risk is going to occur, plan to manage through that risk, communicate internally to stakeholders and externally to those customers, and ideally resolve as much of that risk as possible. If not, at least be able to bring to the board, look, we know this risk is in place, so what can we do in light of this risk and this churn in our accounts? So, churn probability score, simply put, it's just a simple score to represent the probability of churn for any given customer. That's the definition, and I think that's the phonetical way to say definition, most certainly. Scores range from 0 to 13 in this model, and this is simply based on the data that we had in place. A high score there, so 13 equals a high probability of churn, and clients not at risk get a nice 0, which is great. And so this was developed basically through linear regression, where we're doing coefficient and looking at, okay, what is the most likelihood for true positives, want to avoid false positives, et cetera. And I hope you can see this. I'll walk through this, but here's what's in our churn probability score. And this is, for us, with 7 data points. We chose these data points for a variety of reasons. One, just shipping is better than perfect in my mind, right? If we waited for everything to be perfect, then it would never actually ship. And so we used the data that we had available. I also wanted a good blend of art and science. So some of these in here, like the first one is red account priority. That is a subjective measure that the CSM, who knows the business better than anyone, gets to say, look, if it's code 1, that means they've said they're leaving, they're radio silent, right? It is a serious offense. Code 2 is, look, we're talking, but they are not happy about the product issues we have, or they are way oversold and they don't get why they have this product, right? So that is where the CSM can come in and influence the severity of the situation. Reason type, a little less subjective, but there could be multiple reasons, right? You may not have a relationship with the customer, and so product adoption is low, right? So the CSM gets to then have some subjective weight into, well, here's really the reason type for the risk in the account. The next one, relationship health score. This, in our world, is pretty objective. So we do this based on known customer contacts within the account. And so that's in Salesforce, right? What is the level of? And we create actually a formula that will spit out if it's green, yellow, or red health based on the known entities within the account. You could also do this in a subjective way where the CSM says, look, the relationship's pretty healthy, and that would work for the time being. Time to renewal. This one is very objective. Look at an account that renews in 10 days. You have a lot of work to do in a little bit of time, so that's tough. You have 6 months. You've got some runway to work this and make this possible. Your growth potential. This could be subjective. For us, it's objective based on open opportunities within the account. If there are none, then there's no growth. If there are, then great, there's growth potential. ARR, pretty simple. In our case, you'll see those scores are relative to the size of the account. So a big account for us, really hard to unseat, high cost to replace, so they're easier for us to maintain. And then the client solution they purchase. For us, this is their use case. What do they use us for? We have a lot of products, pretty big, so what they're using us for does depend a little bit in terms of their satisfaction. Some stuff's a little earlier to market, less sticky, and so those are the components that we scored in our churn probability score. Those all equal up to a sum total, right? So then that got us our churn probability range. Now, we didn't just make this up. This is based on the data we had. So we went back 9 quarters, right, in historical data. If you don't have 9 quarters, that's okay. You can use whatever historical data you have. You could also make a churn probability range that you think is best case, and then maybe test and learn for a few quarters if you just wanted to get started there. So let's walk through a couple examples here, okay? So the first customer here, the CSM is saying, look, this is code red, they aren't talking to me, no idea what's going on. Their reason type is they have a product issue. They got so mad about a product issue, they just went radio silent on us. The relationship health is coming in as a yellow, which means, yeah, we've got some good relationships there, maybe not as good as it could be. And then we have about 2 to 6 months until the renewal's coming. There is growth potential, so there's open opportunities. They're worth, let's say, $750K, and they use us for customer service, which is a great use case for us. So you add all those things up, 3, 1, 1, 1, -1 at the end there, and you get to a CPS of 3, which gives you 20 to 29% probability of churn of that 750. I don't know the math on that. Let's say it's 175K or so is likely at risk with this customer. So let's flip that to another customer, customer 2. Their code red again. Let's say they've just said, I'm out of here. And that's you guys, right? We've had a budget change. New stakeholder came in. They're not going to fund this anymore. We don't have a great relationship. It's red there. We have a month away till the renewal. There's no growth potential. They're a 250K customer, let's say, and they use this for research and development, which isn't quite as sticky as customer service. So adding all these variables gives us a churn probability score of 11, which is pretty high, 86 to 95% likely to churn. And so let's say that's around, again, 175K or so. So between these two customers, which customer's dollars are you going to try to save? In my mind, I'm going after customer 1. A lot healthier, same ARR dollars. They're a bigger customer, and I think my probability for success is going to be greater. It doesn't mean I'm ignoring customer 2 here at all. It just means I'm going to place more eggs in the basket of customer 1, and where I have to make decisions on where to prioritize, I'm going to lean towards customer 1 in this case. So that's how it works in terms of customers there. I'll walk through some of the outcomes that we received after putting this in place. So one of the things we really needed was accurate forecasting of the ARR churn by quarter. In our early days, logo churn was important to us, even more so than ARR churn. At this stage, the dollar churn was more important than logo loss. So the ARR churn, very important, and we're able to see quarters out where we have risk and where this churn is going to occur. It also helped us understand a little bit better the levers to pull in order to retain customers, and then think about those customer examples at scale and the ability to segment those and slice and dice by success manager, by region, by the vertical, by the solution they use, et cetera. So it gave us better insight into what's happening in the business, which is that third point there. We were able to identify systemic trends better than we were before. And then it finally helped us really prioritize efforts for maximum success. Just what I talked about a second ago, example 1 or 2, that's exactly what we would walk through. How can we prioritize our efforts and make sure we're really using our best efforts and people against most likely and predictable outcomes? The results from a gross retention standpoint, this has yielded us about a 95%, about 140% net. I'm not talking about net much in here. I'm really focused only on churn and risk avoidance in this conversation, but it's been really healthy. It helped us prioritize and put a lot of saved dollars in the metrics that we report as well. But there were some also nice little benefits too, things that we didn't really anticipate or we thought might happen, but came true. So on the sales side, the sales team now knows the right customers to target or not target, and then how to sell to them. So if they have a customer that's sitting a couple quarters out and they're really high churn probability score, they need to walk a little carefully with some of the conversations they're having around upsell, and or they can use those to help influence that churn probability score as well. So it gives insight into what's happening within their customer base. Product marketing, it helps us see, especially on the systemic trend side, where do we need to produce a little more content and collateral to help with some of the areas that we're seeing customers don't understand or need some guidance, right, at a systemic level. So that was great. Marketing, they have a program called Next Logical Solution, which looks at what customers buy and is going after, okay, this based on what they use, here's what could be next. Knowing this data about where there's risk and if it's along some of the products they have or products that we think they should be buying more of, this helped them either tailor efforts to increase conversation activity there or decrease it and kind of pull off the gas pedal if it was going to introduce more risk and annoyance in the customer base. And then finally on the success side, we're able to use this to then upsell customers where they might have some product gaps that help fill some of the voids that they see where they see risk in one side of the business. We can say, well, let's use this instead. It just gave us insight and understanding what more they could use to help solve some of these problems. So at the end of the day, really, all everyone does is win, 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 which has been a lot of fun. And I don't know, I haven't heard anything about giving slides at this thing, but I'm happy to send you slides. Hit me on LinkedIn, I can give you this. I can also walk you through and share anything in terms of the formulas. But super am happy with the results we've seen and would love for you all to benefit from the same. So thanks a lot, appreciate it.